Today I'm answering an often asked question. Does a skilled carpenter really need math? A DIYer can get by without much math. However, a skilled carpenter needs math in order to achieve precision. Carpentry is centered around precise measurements. Therefore, math becomes indispensable. Let's say we need a piece that's 9 2/16, which is right there. So here's an example of how math is used. On the job site, a carpenter would not say 9 2/16. The carpenter automatically reduces the fraction down. Here's an example of how it's done. So you go for your lowest common denominator, or your LCD. In this example, it's 2. You take the lowest number that can be divided into both your top number and your bottom number. And like I said, that's 2. So 2 divided by 2 equals 1, and 16 divided by 2 is 8. So a carpenter on the job site would relay his measurements by saying 9 1/8. Here's another example. Let's pretend this wall is the outside wall for a shed. We need to figure out how many pieces of plywood that it takes to cover this wall. And we do that by calculating our square footage. So I need to get the square footage of this wall. I take a measurement of the height of my wall, which is 8 feet, multiply that by the length of my wall, which is 10 feet. That's going to give me 80 square feet. I also need to get the square footage for the plywood I'm going to use. Now, a standard size piece of plywood is 8 by 4. So I take my 4 times my 8, and that gives me 32 square feet. So I take my 80 divided by 32, that's going to give me 2.5 sheets. Let's round that up to 3. Another example where math is used in carpentry is the 3-4-5 method. I'll discuss this in another video. Watch out for it. Temple builders.